you guys got to check this out. So you guys probably seen some of those lowrider bikes that I've welded a couple of times here on the channel from my brother, his friends, and the one we are doing today is from my cousin. And the difference between this one and all the other ones we've done is the other Schwinn's are metal and it's easy to weld it with a MIG welder. This one we did the extension as well to make it to a lowrider or a cruiser in this case, and this frame Point Beach is aluminum. So this actually was a little tricky to do, and the way we built these bikes, some parts are metal, and because this is aluminum, we had to get a little creative on how to get the pedal to not move, since we can't weld steel to aluminum. So I want to show you guys really quickly what we did. Took another the other one was a Point Beach as well. Yeah, so we took another Point Beach. My cousin modified the back frame here to be able to weld onto the full frame right here. So the original point for the hub is here where the wheel sits in, and we added this piece here where I had to weld the aluminum. Right, I'm gonna stay 2 feet away so you don't see all the big old dimes I laid on there, but welded all the joints. And today I added all the gussets to it to kind of give it a little more strength because it's aluminum. And granted, this is a cruiser now, the weight's kind of on the back side. With the steel, not too worried about it. Aluminum, I've never done it before to know how well it'll hold, but as long as it's penetrated, and now with the gusset, should be Gucci. And then right here, the pedal is steel. And what we did was we cut here to kind of swing this pedal forward to kind of act as a peg as you're, you know, cruising this bike. So how did we adapt steel to aluminum? We took steel, welded on the bottom to tie the two together, put a little gusset, and then we welded a aluminum like gusset to the frame. So it's aluminum mounting point to steel with a 10 mil bolt from a Honda, and now the pedal does not swing downward, so he can rest his leg on there while he mobs this bike. And obviously, if you guys haven't caught on, all these bikes are e-bikes. And yeah, dude, I'm pretty proud of this one because I was a little skeptical, but man, who's laying these dimes down? I am. What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Starting this intro a little bit different, not on the tripod because my adapter is still broken. So you guys probably saw a little clip here in the beginning of the video that we took in the homie Bronson's Turbo EK. Now, if you guys been following the channel, this car was here about 7-8 months ago, give or take, and it came in for a VTEC head conversion. He since then went to the dyno, made over 460 horsepower on E85R, and we've gone to the track. The car did 11.6 off the trailer, but it was turned down. So because Race Wars is coming up and we're all prepping to race in June, this car needs a lot of work. Granted, Bronson is busy and he has a lot on the list to do, and I'm jumping in to help him out with it. So right off the rip, I want to show you guys, this car came in with a 3-piece front end. Originally, it had the original front end on the car, and I think Bronson decided that this is going to be a full race car now. So the 3-piece front end is on the car. We're going to be doing some work with the 3-piece front end today, and there's still a lot more to do with this car. We are going to be swapping out the turbo manifold to a top mount style. We're going to be doing up pipes out the hood because he bought a carbon hood that already has a hole in it, so we may as well utilize that along with the turbo manifold, obviously feed line, return line, intercooler piping. And because there's a 3-piece front end on the car now, there's a giant gap to his intercooler, so we're going to be redoing the intercooler as well, and also upgrading it to that one right there. That one's going to fill up the whole front bumper. And I think we're also going to be doing extended wheel studs. So we have the slicks over here to test fit with the front end and ground clearance and everything, along with the extended wheel studs. We're also going to be doing the belly pan, which is still inside the car. So we're going to readjust the belly pan because the belly pan was fitted for the full exhaust system. So we're going to be taking out the full exhaust system and tuck the belly pan up a little higher. Granted, the car is a little bit lower for that wheel and 3-piece front end combo. The belly pan is sitting on the floor. But I will say that we are going to split this into different segments. Today's goal is just to build the rods for the front bumper to have extra support. Bronson provided all the rods right here and the quick releases. That's what we have to do to get the front bumper tied in firmly so we can figure out where the intercooler will set in a different video where we're going to be doing all the top mount upgrade manifolds. So we're just going to get right to it, guys. I think the first thing I need to do before I even dive into the car is build a rod bender, because these rods are super duper thick and I need to find an easy way to bend these guys. Watch a lot of DIYs on YouTube. Let's see if we can make one. So I have this thick plate right here and I'm going to be cutting some pieces out of it. So I have this like rectangle where I marked out the holes for where the 14 mil bolt, because I'm just using like literally just parts around the garage, and I'm going to be welding it right there. And then this gap should be about the same, and then I'm welding another 14 right there, right? Because once we have two of these guys in place, right, something like that, the rod will go in between here, right? And then we have this piece right here where this one's going to be an open hole, and then this one's going to have a 14 mil there as well too. And then what I saw on YouTube is this piece, this hole right here, is going to go over this one, and then this one's going to be welded in place as well as that one, and then you put the rod in between, and then this is what's going to bend the rod. This piece right here is a little rectangle. It's going to be welded to a like strong thick handle, so that way I can use it to bend the rod. And this plate is going to be a T, so I'm going to cut another rectangle to weld on the bottom, and then this is going to be clamped down on my vise, which is going to be bolted down to my welding table, because that's probably the only sturdy thing in the garage. This table just kind of moves around a little too much, but it sounds confusing. I'm going to build it and I'm going to show it to you guys. So these are the pieces right here. Watch me turn this into a useful tool. So I made the handle short just for like easy storing purposes, and I used a Honda 17 mil bolt. Actually, this is a Downstar 17 motor mount bolt, and this will fit perfectly into the Harbor Freight press handle, just like that. Let's go ahead and do a little sample on this rod. It's already bent right here, so pretty much this open hole goes into one of the studs like that. The rod goes in between all of the studs. Obviously measure out your length, and then handle goes into the bolt. Make sure it's stabilized. This would probably be a lot easier if I had a bigger vise, but currently I don't. And just kind of bend it. Oh my God. This rod is super thick. Definitely takes some effort. If the bar is longer, you'll have a little more leverage, but yeah, that kind of sort of worked. Okay, now let's go ahead and figure out this bracket for the front bumper of the EK. So one thing I noticed when we fitted up the bumper yesterday, Bronson was telling me about the core support might have been bent at one point in time, because everything lines up but the center section of the core support. Let me show you guys. So if you look, everything kind of sort of lines up, and then right here you can see it's about 1/2 inch off, and the holes here doesn't line up with the holes on the core, right? And I really want this to fit up really nicely before I, you know, make the bracketry to hold it up. And I'm trying to figure out what I want to do right here. Obviously the hood latches no problem, but Bronson mentioned that you have to kind of like put a little more pressure on the hood to get it to click, which means the core support is probably kind of bent downward a little bit. And when I took off the bumper earlier, I noticed that it was kind of flimsy on both sides, and these little tap screws is what's holding this to the middle section. So it's actually detached up there, like it's not even connected, right? And I feel like whoever smacked this car probably detached it to bend it upward just so it can latch with the hood. So I'm debating if I want to like somehow pull the frame out just a little bit, or find a way to make this work with the top of the core support here, even though we're only going to have a little bit of the lip of this to mount to that. So I decided I'm not going to pull the frame because it's so flimsy and it's already like warped. I don't want to mess it up anymore. The hood already latches and the front end kind of sort of lines up okay. So I'm just going to leave it alone and just kind of like find different ways to mount the top of the bumper rather than trying to use the OEM holes. And on top of that, if I use the OEM holes with like 10mm bolts or push clips, this bumper is not going to be easily disconnectable. You know what I mean? We're using push locks, so we're going to have like maybe 2 on the side, 2 on the opposite side, and then possibly 2 in the front just to kind of keep the front of the bumper from like, you know, folding underneath. And I'm probably going to use like this corner with a push lock as well, because you can kind of fold it up to kind of, you know, take off the push lock from the ball stud that it comes with, instead of taking off like individual 5 or 6 bolts on the top. Push lock right there, push lock right there, pop it off, push lock, pull the whole front end off. So right now I have it mocked up to the best of my ability. The thing about fiberglass is the way it comes out of the mold, that's how it's going to stay formed. You can't really manipulate fiberglass too much other than just widening up holes and closing up gaps. So I have this lined up to the best that I can, almost all the way to the back, and I can't push it any further because we're already hitting up in the headlight right there. I have 2 pieces of metal underneath the vice grip, so I'm not like gouging the fiberglass, just to kind of hold it in place. Pretty sturdy. Same thing on the other side. This one fits a little bit better than the driver's side. It lines up perfectly in the wheel well, but nonetheless, you're really not going to know. So I think what I'm going to do first is I'm probably going to do the 2 top ones first. And by the looks of it, these tabs, because it's disconnected from the top of the core support, it kind of moves around a little bit. So it is also short, so I'm going to have to extend this tab further out to kind of get dead centered here to use as much as the fiberglass as possible. Put a push lock there to kind of lock that into place. One over here, same deal. Probably gonna have to adjust this headlight because it sticks out a little further than this side. Super flushed, right? And I also got to close the hood to make sure we have enough gap for the push lock, because it does stick up just a little bit. Yeah, I think we got space back there. I think this is just touching the edge, and we're gonna be able to push this in just a little bit. Bumper has to come up, and then that kind of sucks in right there. I think we have space. I think we do. So I did a quick little measurement on this tab right here. It looks like we need to extend it about 1/2 inch in order to put the push lock dead centered on the fiberglass flap right here, right? So I'm taking some square tubing. I'm gonna cut this probably 1/2 inch, and then I'm gonna trim it down like just to get that little angle on the edge, kind of how this one is right here. And I'm just gonna weld it on, and then we'll make our measurements before we drill the hole for the pin for the quick latch. So I don't know, it's a little shorter, but we just need to be dead centered. So we have the extension right here on this tab, and you can see it's a little more firmer now. And the reason for that is because this one, the self-tapper, it literally didn't go anywhere. It's hard to see, but the flap was folded down, so the self-tapper didn't even like touch it. So I bent it up and tapped it in. Now it's not rattling anymore. This is now tied into this piece, a little more firm. This one was tied in, but the hole was like oversized, so it just kept spinning. And I put one of those like little bumper tabs for the corner lamps. You guys know what I mean? The U clamp thing right there. And it caught the self-tap, and now it's tied in. This is all nice and firm. I'm gonna go ahead and fit the bumper up and figure out where we need to drill a hole for our first quick latches. So I got the bumper mocked back up, vice grip. We have this headlight adjusted as far back as possible. It is already maxed out, and the gap closed about half. It still sticks out just a little bit right there, but you can see we are maxed out with that circle. I did notice that the fiberglass on this side was at a weird angle, and I didn't want to like bend the fiberglass because you can't really do that. I had to take off the 10 mil bolt. You can kind of see it now. It's off centered from the headlight right there, and when it was bolted on, this entire flap, the fender part of it, was pointed up, so I couldn't get this to be flat to like run a nut and bolt system, you know, later down the road or whatever. And it did kind of, you know, close up the gap really well over here, but we're gonna have to figure something out with that tab. The grill section is pushed all the way up just so that the end of the hood to the bumper grill is not like a giant gap, you know what I mean? So it's pushed back. You can see I got 2 screwdrivers with a bungee cord pulling it back, right? And this right here is the push lock we are using. And I just noticed that we only have 6 of these guys, right? So we're supposed to run 2 on that side, 2 on that side, and then Bronson wants to run like 2 up in the front bumper, which I mentioned earlier. We don't want the bumper to fold, right? That's 6, but then we wouldn't have 2 to run on the top. So I mean, I can mock it up and make it all work, and then Bronson can buy 2 later. But I did check my little inventory up here, but I got like maybe 2 of them. They're different sizes, but I mean, we'll make something happen. Anyways, so this is one of those crucial things where you have to measure 1,000 times before you make a cut, especially fiberglass. Not saying that you can't add fiberglass back in. It's just a pain in the ass process, but I definitely don't want to overcut, cut wrong, or cut out of position. So it's going to be sitting somewhere right here. Again, I wanted to be as close inside as possible just so we have a lot of fiberglass meat, and also make sure that we clear the hood, which sits somewhere right there. Same thing over here, plenty of lip to sit on. So I'm going to go ahead and measure this thing 1,000 times before we drill this hole. So we got the hole drilled out right there, and this is going to need to be adjusted once we get the latch on the bumper to know how high or low we need to go. So this is simple enough. Put the nut in one side, washer, you go through, and then washer and nut. It's a Honda 10 mil. That's good to know. Let's try out this first one right here. You got to lift the bumper up just a little bit, lock it in. Órale pues. All right. So you got to hook up the grill portion first before the bottom. So it's like a hook. Look at that. Sturdy. So the thing about this fiberglass bumper, this is as far as I can push it back, and the hood is as far as it can come forward. So you can see a little gap. I did mark it with a permanent marker to make sure that the quick latch wasn't gonna, you know, poke out on the outside. This one a little more flushed, and again, this is granted when you got a different company hood, a different company front end, fiberglass components, however it comes out of the mold is how it comes out. And you know, it's always gonna be up to the owner to really fit it as best as possible. And granted, the hood is max forward, bumper is max back. That's what we got to deal with. Okay guys, I'm gonna get y'all a little caught up real quick. So last night I was working on the EK here, and it took me quite a while to figure out how I wanted to do the quick latches on the top of the bumper to the core support. We figured it out, and then I spent a lot of time, I'm talking about a lot of time, like 3 hours, trying to figure out how I was gonna make the brackets for the lower portion of the bumper to the fender, right? And they had a DOI checkpoint right here, and a lot of people were coming through the block, and people think this is a through street even though it says dead end at the very beginning. I'm talking about at least 100 cars came through here yesterday, and it was just kind of annoying in a sense, because like people, either you're really drunk coming through here trying to avoid checkpoint, or like you're impatient, you smash through here. I have a lot of cars on the street, and some people go and try to make a 20-point turn trying to get out of here. Some people actually put it in reverse, and some people reverse straight instead of curved, because my block is curved and not straight. And sometimes, you know, with past experience, people have smacked the cars, smacked the trees, the curb, the basketball court. So I was distracted with a lot of people coming through the block, and my cousin came through talking bike stuff and picking up some of his extra bike stuff that was here, and we were just kind of hanging out till like 2 in the morning. So I didn't make the brackets, and I will say I am falling behind on schedule right now, but I did come out here today, and I spent I spent 3 hours making the passenger side bracket for the bumper to the fender, and it's actually right there. It's hanging out, and I did that one off camera because I wanted to understand and figure out how I was going to go about it. And with that one that I made, seems pretty sturdy with a little mod to the fender to get the gaps to line up, and I think I'm certain on that bracketry that it's going to work perfectly fine. So I am going to take you guys along to do the driver's side. I'm going to go ahead and put that bracket back onto the car right now, and I'm going to show you guys the fit up, and then we'll get cracking on this side. I made the bracket removable. It has 3 points on the frame. So the first thing I did was I installed the quick latches onto the bumper to be able to install these pins onto this weldable tab. Bronson gave me a whole box of these right here, and these tabs have like little curves on the edge for where the rod can sit up against to make a nice weld. Although I am MIG welding this and not TIG welding it because I don't have much gas, and I need the gas to build the up pipe for the new turbo setup. These tabs right here with the pin and the quick latches will kind of give me an idea of like how I'm gonna route the rods. So I will say right now, when I was making the passenger side, I didn't realize that these guys right here, these longer ones, are way thicker than these shorter ones. If you look right here, night and day difference, right? And these guys were a little easier to bend. These thick ass ones were really hard to bend on my DIY bender. Now my problem with this is that I made this hole a little too big, and it moves around too much. When I'm trying to bend, it moves and it bends the rod like out of degree of, you know, how I need it to be bent. And The issue was every time I would bend, it would come out a different angle and create a gap, which is why I MIG welded it rather than, you know, TIG welded, because TIG welding has to be butted up really tight. MIG is a little forgiving, you can feel. So I did the whole bracketry out of MIG, which is perfectly fine as long as you can burn it hot enough to melt and penetrate. We're just gonna MIG the driver's side as well too. So I need to measure out the passenger side holes for the driver's side so we can install the quick latches first, and then we need to mount the tabs to the chassis. These guys we made earlier, and then we can bend our rods. So I am gonna bring this nut all the way to the top. I am gonna keep about 1/4 of an inch just in case we need to suck in the bumper. We can always screw this inward, and then it'll allow us to like kind of suck the panel in to clip the quick latch to that. Washer, nut. Because I'm building the bracket in a triangulated form to give it strength, I am trying to use all of the like existing provisions. This 10 mils right here. Throw that one on. There's one all the way in the front over here, which is actually a little further than the passenger side. And then also on the passenger side, I used this hole right here where I put a riv nut through. This one is existing that the passenger side didn't have, but it will kind of scoot the bracket a little too far forward. Maybe I'll just put one there too, just to kind of see how it looks and how it lines up before I, you know, drill out this hole right here. I forgot about a quick release for my G7X, and I just robbed it so I can use my tripod, because this little handheld thing, man, it's not the business for working in the garage. This is more of a vlogging stick, if anything. The vice grip is still in place because I want this bumper to sit where it needs to be when I make these brackets, so it's nice and snug once, you know, all the quick latches are in place and connected. So I'm using an aluminum welding rod to kind of figure out my bends, and I'm going to start on the top one here to the bracket. And the important thing is, when you make your measurements, make sure your bracket and your stud is straight into the quick latch. Takes a couple of tries, a couple of different angles. To be honest with you guys, this is kind of hard to do while I'm sitting on the floor, because like every part of my body is getting like that ache, you know what I mean? So that's why it kind of took me a long time to do the passenger side. Second bend, a little tricky. Hopefully that lines up. So I trimmed this end right here a couple of times just to get this to fit up better, and I think we're just about there. First rod. I also forgot to install the second quick latch, so I need to do that real quick. All right, second bracket right here in the bottom. We need to connect this top flange bracket to the bottom one, and I think this one was simple. It was like just a 90-ish straight down 90, or actually I put a curve into it so you don't see it right here. When you look inside the bumper, I kind of tucked it along this edge. I didn't use a smaller rod for reference. Here we go. So you can see how it's straight right here next to the edge of the bumper. I'm gonna go hit this rod at 3 points, 1, 2, 3, to kind of put a little curve into it. Might be a little hard for you guys to see, but I bent this a couple of more times, and it looks like that's gonna be it right there. All right, second rod. Now we got to do from this bottom tab to chassis. The bottom bar is pretty simple. I have like, I don't know, 45 degree in the bottom. It goes into the tab, and then it goes to the frame rail right over there. Let's go ahead and weld this. All right, so here's the last bar. This one was a little tricky because this one needed a much tighter angle. Something like that. Now I'm gonna go ahead and use a bunch of the cutoffs to tie the 3 rods together to kind of give it extra strength. You know, I didn't test fit the wheels to see if it'll clear my bracketry, right? But I knew that the bracket was sitting inside the bumper and it sits further in than the headlight bracket there. So if it was to touch, it'll touch that first, right? Looks like we got space. So I'm happy with that. So pull the bumper off a couple of times just to see how complicated it is to align all 6 quick latches. Now the trick here is to do the grill portion first. Bronson, if you're watching, you got to put the grill on first, these 2 guys, and then you got to slip this flap literally tucked up against the fender, and then you can clip these 2 guys in. Now I noticed at the driver's side I made it really tucked because this one had a giant gap, and again with fiberglass, the way it comes out of the mold is the way it comes out of the mold, and it had a fat gap. So when I built the bracket, you guys saw I had the vice grip to hold it in place, and it's kind of a fight, but obviously it latches in once you get it latched in. I would say overall complication to put the bumper on is probably like a 6 out of 10, just because of the driver's side. Granted, how much I want this gap to be tight. It looks good. It looks good. I like it. There's another person on YouTube that did a JerryBuilt front end as well, which is this front end right here, JerryBuilt, and he too also has a gap on the driver's side. The passenger side, he had a good tight fitment, and then the part right here that touches the hood, he has a more stick out over here. you guys can see that permanent marker line. He has more stick out on the passenger side. So I know it's not me, I know it's not my installation. I guess again, the way the fiberglass comes out of the mold, that's just how it is. Overall, to me personally, as a race car, like this is really good. I really like how this thing turned out. And I told Bronson, I don't think we're gonna run the 2 in the front like I mentioned earlier in this video. I don't want to have to fight 2, 4, 6, 8 freaking quick latches. And I also realized that once we upgrade the intercooler, the new one's gonna sit up right up on this edge. So that means the front portion of this bumper is going to be really stout against the intercooler. So I'm not worried about the bottom folding or anything like that. And it's already strong the way it is. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked about it. And honestly guys, I thought I was going to be able to do more today, but these rods, bending these rods, kicked my butt today. I guess we're just gonna have to continue with all the miscellaneous stuff in a separate video. Tomorrow I need to dive into the turbo manifold upgrade, which is this guy right here on the floor. So with that being said, I am going to cap out this video right here. It is the weekend. Neighbors got a lot of people over, music slapping, they're yelling all crazy over there. But so I am going to wrap it up for tonight, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video with Bronson's Turbo EK with the JerryBuilt 3-piece front end with custom brackets. If you guys enjoyed this one, be sure to leave a thumbs up. And if you guys want to stick around for the fun stuff, the turbo manifold install, the rerouting of all the lines, the up pipes, possibly with teardrops, new intercooler piping, and the intercooler installation, be sure to hit the subscribe button. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.